When you think of ancient Greece, what comes to mind? Probably the Parthenon standing tall in Athens, the birth of democracy, or profound wisdom of philosophers like Plato and Aristotle. It's the cradle of Western civilization, a beacon of logic, art, and intellectual achievement. But what if I told you that this shining image is only half the story? What if, behind the marble statues and grand amphitheaters, there existed a world of rituals so strange, so intense, and so far removed from our modern sensibilities that history itself tried to forget them? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on ancient Greece. We're not just exploring the civilization celebrated in our textbooks, we're venturing into its shadows. We'll uncover the secret ceremonies, the forgotten beliefs, and the rites that were once central to Greek life but have since been quietly pushed aside. These weren't just quirky traditions, they were powerful expressions of a culture grappling with the same fundamental questions we face today: life, death, and our place in the cosmos. Why were these practices considered so essential then, and why were they later deemed forbidden to be remembered? Join me as we journey into the hidden heart of ancient Greece, a world far more complex and human than you ever imagined. History is never just a collection of glorified moments. It's a messy, complicated, and often contradictory tapestry. The ancient Greeks, for all their logic and reason, were also deeply spiritual people. Their world was alive with gods, spirits, and mysterious forces that governed everything from the harvest to the fate of empires. Public life was filled with grand festivals like the Panathenaic Games or the dramatic competitions in honor of Dionysus. These were the acceptable, celebrated faces of Greek religion. Everyone could participate, and these events reinforced community bonds and civic pride. But beneath this public layer was another, more private and intense world of religious practice. These were the rituals that took place in secluded groves, at midnight, or within the hidden chambers of mystery cults. They weren't for everyone. Initiation was often required, and the secrets learned within were guarded under penalty of death. Why the secrecy? Because these rituals dealt with the raw, untamed aspects of human existence: fear, desire, mortality, and the hope for an afterlife. They offered a direct, personal connection to the divine that the more formal state religion couldn't provide. Take, for example, the Thesmophoria, a festival held exclusively by women to honor the goddesses Demeter and her daughter Persephone. For 3 days, married women would leave their homes and gather in a sacred space, far from the eyes of men. The rituals were intense. They involved fasting, purification rites, and even the handling of decaying remains of sacrificed animals, which were mixed with seeds to ensure a fertile harvest. To the Greeks, this was a powerful act of sympathetic magic, connecting the fertility of their fields with the cycle of life and death embodied by the goddesses. It was a sacred duty, essential for the survival of the community. But to an outsider, or to later historians, the details could seem bizarre or even grotesque. Then there were the Orphic rites. The Orphics had a completely different view of humanity's origins. They believed that humans were born from the ashes of the Titans, who had dismembered and eaten the god Dionysus. This meant that every person contained a dual nature, a divine spark from Dionysus and a sinful, earthly body from the Titans. Their entire religious focus was on purify the soul, to free it from its titanic prison and escape the endless cycle of reincarnation. Their rituals included strict vegetarianism, ascetic practices, and the study of sacred texts that offered a roadmap to salvation. This was a far cry from the transactional religion of offering a sacrifice to Zeus for good fortune. It was a deeply personal, philosophical path, promising a blessed existence after death. Perhaps the most famous of all the secret rites were the Eleusinian Mysteries, another cult dedicated to Demeter and Persephone. For nearly 2,000 years, people from all over the Greek-speaking world flocked to the sanctuary at Eleusis to be initiated. We know that philosophers, emperors, and common folk alike participated. The initiation was a multi-day affair, culminating in a secret ceremony within a great hall called the Telesterion. What happened inside? We don't exactly know. The penalty for revealing the secrets was death, and the initiates kept their vows. But from fragments and hints left behind, we can piece together a powerful experience. It likely involved a dramatic reenactment of Persephone's abduction into the underworld and her eventual return, symbolizing death and rebirth. Initiates were shown sacred objects, and it's believed they experienced some kind of profound vision, perhaps aided by a psychoactive barley drink called the kykeon. Whatever happened, it left them fundamentally changed. They no longer feared death, having been shown a promise of a happy afterlife. Cicero, the Roman orator, wrote, "We have learned from them the beginnings of life, and have gained the power not only to live happily, but also to die with a better hope." So, if these rituals were so important and meaningful to the ancient Greeks, why do we know so little about them today? Why were they labeled forbidden? The answer lies in the way history is written. As Christianity rose to prominence in the Roman Empire, these pagan practices were viewed not just as outdated, but as demonic and dangerous. Early Christian leaders actively sought to suppress them. Temples were destroyed, sacred groves were cut down, and the Eleusinian mysteries were officially ended by the Emperor Theodosius in 392 AD. The knowledge of these rites was deliberately erased. What couldn't be destroyed was reinterpreted. Later scholars, particularly during the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, were fascinated by Greece's contributions to philosophy, science, and democracy. They wanted to create a pristine image of Greece as a civilization built purely on reason. The messy, ecstatic, and often violent aspects of its religion didn't fit this narrative. So, they were minimized, allegorized, or simply ignored. Historians selectively curated the past, presenting a version of Greece that reflected their own values. The raw, primal worship of Dionysus was softened into a mere appreciation for theater. The profound spiritual transformation of the Eleusinian mysteries was reduced to a footnote, but history has a way of leaving clues. Like detectives, modern historians and archaeologists have been piecing together the puzzle from the fragments that remain. They analyzed the writings of philosophers like Plato, who often referenced the mysteries in his dialogues. They studied the works of playwrights like Euripides, whose play The Bacchae gives us a chilling look at the ecstatic worship of Dionysus. They examined curse tablets, thin sheets of lead where individuals would write spells to harm their enemies, revealing a dark underbelly of magic and superstition. And they excavate the archaeological sites themselves, the sanctuaries, the initiation halls, the ritual pits, unearthing the physical evidence of these forgotten practices. Each new discovery brings us closer to a more complete and honest picture of ancient Greece. It shows us a society that wasn't perfect or monolithic. It was a human society, full of contradictions. The same culture that produced the logical proofs of Euclid also practiced ritual magic. The same people who debated the nature of justice in the Agora also sought personal salvation in secret, ecstatic rites. They weren't illogical for doing so. They were simply using every tool available to them: reason, faith, ritual, and magic to make sense of a complex and often frightening world. Understanding these so-called forbidden rituals does not diminish the greatness of ancient Greece. On the contrary, it enriches our understanding of it. It reminds us that civilizations are not just their intellectual highlights. They are the sum of all their beliefs, their fears, their hopes, and their practices, both public and private. It shows us that the human need for meaning, for transcendence, and for a connection to something larger than ourselves is a timeless impulse. The Greeks simply expressed it in ways that are unfamiliar to us today. If you found your way to this video from our short clip, I hope this deeper dive has given you a richer context for these fascinating practices. History is not just about what was proudly celebrated. It is equally about what was hidden, what was suppressed, and what was left behind. By exploring these shadows, we don't just learn about the past. We learn about the complex nature of belief, the biases of historical memory, and the enduring humanity that connects us all across the centuries. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy exploring the hidden corners of history and challenging traditional narratives, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What other forbidden parts of history should we explore next? Share this with anyone who is curious about the past as it truly was. See you in the next one.